My mother is crushed. Oh my God, my baby just died. She screams, "Robin," and commands me, "You get down here now." You can just imagine in the throes of the universe is being created and love being generated everywhere. There was like a fish hook of my mother's love, and it just hooks me all the way down fast like lightning. And now that's when I see this little baby, white and pale, in the bathtub with this red laundry basket packed in ice. I look at that little baby body and I know I'm heading for it. There's no way that this light awareness is going to be contained in this little baby body. So my mother picks her head up and she looks at me, and then she sees I must have moved again. Her heart is like elated with joy. And when she picks me up as a baby, I go to open my eyes, and it's like a helmet of lead just collapses over my extended awareness. And I believe that that's the veil that we all have when we incarnate on Earth.
Well, hello, Robin Richardson. Welcome to the show. I'm truly honored by you joining me and looking forward to our conversation. How are you feeling today?
Wonderful. And I also am honored to be invited to your show to tell my story. So thank you so much, Brad.
Oh, I am so looking forward to it. We're going to have so much fun today. Every week, we bring you powerful stories about life after death, awakening, and what it means to go beyond the illusion and discover your true self. And if that resonates with you, you'll love what's coming. Today's guest is Robin Richardson, a licensed psychotherapist from Sarasota, Florida, and an ordained reverend whose near-death experience as an infant reshaped the course of her life and her work. And as a 6-month-old during the 1957 Asian flu, Robin flatlined and was packed in a red laundry basket filled with ice, and describes being lifted from her body by light filled with champagne-like bubbles of love, expanding into a panorama of consciousness, and then being called back by her mother's fierce love. We'll explore what she saw, what she knew, and how that knowing has guided her ever since. If you've ever wondered whether we remain ourselves on the other side and how love operates as a creative force, or how an NDE can inform a lifetime of healing work, you're in the right place. Robin, it's a joy to have you here. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much, Brad.
We're going to have so much fun. I know it was great to get to meet you at the IANDS conference about a month ago, International Association of Near-Death Studies in Chicago this last year. Of course, next year it's going to be in Seattle. I know I went and saw you speak on stage, and it was such a phenomenal story and heartwarming as well. I can't wait to hear it again today. Thank you for agreeing to join us here. Now, we've got so much to do today because not only are we going to tell your NDE story and everything that came from that, but the world should know you've always, for years and years and years, have been into frequencies and sounds and so forth. And so we have a special treat at the end. You have a one-of-a-kind Lambdoma instrument that's played at 528 hertz. That's a magical frequency, which you're going to describe here in just a bit. And you'll have a recording for us to play that musical instrument, just as you do in Sarasota, I think on a weekly basis, at the Cosmic Center of Spiritual Light, which is ccosl.com. You should go there as well. So before you jump into your story, how would you like to take just a minute and describe the CCOSL and then the instrument we referred to?
So the Cosmic Center of Spiritual Light is a beautiful center. It's also part of the Metaphysical Christianity Church. And I'm one of the reverends, one of 4, and I've been there many years. So I go there on the 4th Sunday of the month, and I will talk on the world religions across the world, the Gnostic Gospels, Hinduism, Buddhism, the Upanishads, the Nag Hammadi scrolls. So that is what I do the 4th Sunday of every month. But on the 1st Sunday of every month, Reverend Sharon Elizabeth will take the lead, but we have the Divine Healing Service. And I bring this very unique instrument that Barbara Hero invented based on Pythagoras. And I do have the very last Lambdoma ever made. And she's now in heaven, bless her heart. But it's very unique. And it plays almost any instrument. I can key it to pan flute, piano, organ, saxophone, oboe. But the beauty of it is it plays fractal frequencies. of almost any frequency. So you're playing ratios of music, and it's based on Pythagoras, his lambda, which was math, in ratios. And he believed in, music as medicine. So what she did was actually put it in a keyboard instrument for today's use. And I can play any frequency from, let's say, maybe 20 hertz to 4,000 or 5,000 or more. And so what it will do is when I key it to a certain frequency, it will play a fractal frequency all the way up, a multiple of or a division of. So literally any frequency any kind of button I will touch will be a fractal frequency of the major frequency I've keyed it to. What's important about this is that in nature, sometimes we can hear all these healing frequencies, but most instruments are not keyed for these particular frequencies. So when you expose your body to the frequency of 528, which we do every first Sunday of the month, it literally, when blood is exposed to it, it repairs the DNA. It wraps the telomeres on the DNA. So all these particular frequencies, and when I can play the fractal frequencies of it, it's beautiful, harmonic ratios of that particular frequency that's healing. So it's a beautiful instrument, and I would love to share it with everyone at the end of the session and invite everyone, they can zoom in on the first Sunday of the month with the divine, it's the divine healing service at the Cosmic Center of Spiritual Light.
Well, that's very kind of you to share today. So at the end, as we finish the discussion, we will have you play that, the Lambdoma, for sure, 528 based on 528 hertz. And also, I think we'll share the Zoom links also so they can come on a regular basis if they want to connect remotely to you during those sessions. And I guess there's also one other treat there that in Sarasota with you is Dr. Raymond Moody, and he visits this church as well.
Yes, absolutely. I was out to dinner with him last night, and he's coming every Friday. He's got a series of 6 workshops that he's doing every Friday, and he's given the second one last night. And then when he finishes up with that, he's going to do maybe a longer workshop on a weekend. And so he's been with us a number of times. And if you go to our website, www.ccsl.com, you'll see on there that you can actually zoom in with them this Friday at 7:00 our time. So it's Eastern Daylight Time right now. It hasn't flipped yet. So 7:00 on Friday, and he's going to be speaking about the psychomantium, but then he's done workshops on NDEs with us, and he's going to do some other workshops on the oracles of Delphi and the Greek mythology.
That's great. And for those that are unfamiliar, Dr. Raymond Moody is kind of the grandfather of NDE, kind of coined the term 50 years ago. In fact, at the IANDS conference we were just at, that was the celebration of 50 years of him writing his first book on this and really coining that term, and then spending his life, focused on this area. And it's great when you talk with him, he's still sharp as a tack. And so he is so amazing. And so, yes, I'll send the link to you guys with that. It'll be in the description below, and you will be able to connect to him regularly also. Now, speaking of workshop, I think we should jump straight into Robin's NDE story here, because it truly is a workshop in itself.
I died in the year 1957 as a 6-month-old baby. And what had happened is no one had ever told me about it. But there was a red laundry basket, solid, and we had moved quite frequently, and my mother always dragged that red laundry basket everywhere with us. Every time I got near it, Brad, I got this real eerie feeling. And I didn't, I couldn't explain it. And so I'd actually, in the last house that we moved into, I saw it down in the basement. I went and hid it behind the water heater because I didn't even want to look at it because it made me feel so weird inside. And I was a kid. So my baby brother was born. I was about 8 years old. And what had happened is my mother wanted me to go get these cloth diapers because back in the day, we used to have cloth diapers. And I wanted to go outside and play. I just come home from school. And she said, honey, go down in the basement and go get those cloth diapers, and then you can go out and play. I ran down there. There wasn't any more laundry baskets, and I'm really happy thinking I'm going to get out of this chore. And she goes, oh no, there's that red laundry basket down in the basement you can use. So very slowly and trepidatiously, because I knew where that red laundry basket was because I'd hit it, I had to use it. And so I went and dragged it out from behind the water heater. I didn't even want to touch it. So I'm dragging it very slowly. And this is what is going to be triggering the entire NDE, is because when you take this solid red 1950s laundry basket and you put it under the door to the dryer, I'm now perched over it, which I had never done before because I was trying to stay away from it. So now when I'm over it trying to pull the white cloth diapers out, all of a sudden the whole world turned upside down and the entire event of my NDE comes back to me in one fell swoop. And what I see, and I almost literally, I got dizzy. In that instant, I was up in heaven. And so I remembered the entire event, and this is what unfolds. What's important to know is I had never been told this. So now I will tell you what unfolds, and then I'll tell you how my mother validates it, and there were 2 other witnesses. So immediately what happens is I remember being a little baby on a 1950s sort of kitchen table, and I was in a little baby bouncy chair, and there's 2 people over there in the corner. I'm in the kitchen, and they're near this fuzzy brown box on the wall. Took me years to figure out what this fuzzy brown box was. Clue, 1950s, it's a wall phone. Now, I didn't grow up with that, so it took me a while to realize in my memory what that might have been. But that also explains why they were over there in the corridor near that brown box and they weren't near me. They were speaking very staccato. I'm a baby. I'm not indoctrinated. I'm not programmed. So that's what makes this special, because the experience I had, I wasn't told what I was supposed to see. So I got to see even more. And so what happens is they're speaking in very staccato, very nervous. I'm a child. I know they're nervous. I don't know what they're upset about. I have no way to calm them down, but I'm looking at them, and I finally see that they're looking at me. And it's a little bit blurry, Brad, because I had had the German measles also, and so my eyes were damaged. So everything's a little fuzzy, but I'm seeing that they're directing this energy. They're upset at something with me. I'm a baby. I go, what's going on here? I looked at my little hand. There was light all around it. And I'm thinking, I feel absolutely wonderful. Please don't be upset. And then in that instant, there's rays of light filled with like champagne bubbles of love. Like beautiful rays of light just kind of come in that baby body in that little bouncy baby chair and just lift me up. And as I'm being lifted up, what's happening in that instant now, I can understand words in English. I understand everyone's feelings. I understand everything now. And I see my mother running down the corridor screaming, pack her in ice. What's going on? Get that red laundry basket. And they're saying, they're just frantic. I'm looking forward to where I'm going. And these beautiful champagne bubbles of love and light are lifting me upward. As I'm coming into space, I go onward and onward, and I finally get all the way up, and you're in space. It felt so freeing. It felt like a genie out of the box. And I remember thinking, oh my God, I'm free again. This is wonderful. And it was like I took a breath and I felt me again. And in that one moment, though, I have full consciousness and I go, that was a wild ride down there. And then I remember thinking, I'm looking at the beauty and the stars and it's beautiful. I go, I just thought of two thoughts at one time, simultaneous. That's kind of interesting. I can do two things at once. And I start saying, could I think of 3 things, 4 things, 5 things? And then in that moment, my consciousness is able to think of 10 things, 100 things, 1,000 things at once, simultaneous. And it's like the best I can try to explain it to you. It's like if it's a computer, you can open up 1,000 tabs at once and be doing it all at the same time. And in that moment, whatever you so intend to concentrate on, you can merge with it and become it and go inside of it. So you can merge with all of creation, anything you so desire. And that's where you almost feel this loveliness, where even in the Bible, and it says, and God knew every hair on your head. The lion will lay down with the lamb. Even think of the Bible verses. When you can become something and go inside of it, you are it. And you can become part of all creation, but you still get to keep your individuality. You can choose to go in it and choose to come out. And you can be part of all of it at once. And in that one moment, I'm witnessing the glories of all this creation, seeing my own consciousness become omnipotent, omnipresent. And then my awareness just stills for a second. And I start to feel the creators, our divine creators, prime creators' love and energy. And it's like a heartbeat or a breath, because I'm witnessing. It is like if you can think of a bubbles and you're blowing all the bubbles, God is literally blowing energy into all these dimensions. And everything is being formed. Souls, it's awarenesses, planets, universes being formed and generated. And then not even just being generated, but then you're starting to see the dimensions between the dimensions, outward, upward, every which way. It's being filled. It's teeming with awareness and life. And as God's love, his energy, his, her, all of it is more than any religion can speak of. It fuels all the awarenesses in all the dimensions, giving it love and life, and it blossoms. And then as it runs out of energy, it literally, the breath of God refuels it. It can change form, it can morph, it can do other things, but all the universes are expanding and continuing, and our souls and awarenesses are expanding and continuing. So I'm watching this whole array of all the awarenesses and whole universes being created, dimensions, and it's filled with love and awareness, and we are all truly interconnected. Everything is being generated and fueled by this divine guidance and love from our Creator, that is a divine, blessed awareness. We have that within us, but our awarenesses can be connected to each other. And that's what I was seeing and feeling and a part of. So as I'm witnessing all of this, whole universe is being generated. It's almost like a gnat. I'm connected still on earth. So out of the left, I'm hearing all this commotion down on earth, because remember, you can think of 1,000 things at once. So the one tab is open and my awareness looks about what's all this happening on earth. I can hear and know and experience all words. And my mother's thoughts, her feelings, the people there, and they're frantic. And they're telling my mother she's not breathing. My mother's saying there's something you can do. There's nothing else we can do, Stormy. Look, she doesn't have a heartbeat. She's not breathing. Look, there's something else. She's like frantic. And finally she stills. And I have the impression that's when she's looking, she's checking the body. And I can feel it in her heart. She sees there's no breath. They said, see, she's not breathing. There's no heartbeat. You have to let her go. My mother is crushed in that moment, that reckoning moment of, oh my God, my baby just died. She goes to crumble by this red laundry basket down on her knees, and she's just devastated. And in that one moment, she stands up with the fierce love, with anger, with force, with authority, and she screams my name from the depths of her soul, from the reaches of earth to heaven. She screams, Robin, and commands me, you get down here now. Brad, I am up there. You can just imagine in the throes of the universe is being created and love being generated everywhere. There was like a fish hook of my mother's love, and it just hooks me. And then down now is like it hooks me out of heaven. That's when I go through the dimensions in that tunnel they speak of. All the way down, fast like lightning. And now that's when I see this little baby, white and pale, in the bathtub with this red laundry basket packed in ice, white and pale. I have this extended awareness, 360-degree awareness. I understand everything. I understand my own awareness and everyone else's. I look at that little baby body and I know I'm heading for it. And I say to myself, there's no way that this light awareness is going to be contained in this little baby body. Well, to my surprise, it does. And I enter through the top of my head. And it takes me a second for me to recognize and to be aware of that I'm actually contained. And I'm like in shock for a second. I can't even believe this little tiny body contained that light awareness. But I haven't opened my eyes yet. And this is what's fascinating. In that moment, my mother's sobbing right next to me, right down kind of like by my stomach here. She's sobbing. These other two people are over here, sitting next to each other. And they're saying, like, what are we supposed to do? They're talking, and I can understand English now. What are we supposed to do? Like, this never happened to me. Are we supposed to call a doctor, the morgue? Like, what do you do when people die? They're talking to each other, and my mother's sobbing. And then all of a sudden, I can feel her. The woman looks, and she cocks her head, and I must have shivered because now I'm packed in ice. And so she thought she didn't see it. Then she looks again, and then she realizes that she did. So I must have twitched again. And so that's when she pokes the other guy, sitting next to her and says, look. And he sees it. And that's when she turns around and says, Stormy, she just moved. I think she's here. She's awake. And my mother goes in her mind, don't even get me going. I just accepted she died. And she goes, no, Stormy, honest, she moved. So my mother picks her head up and she looks at me, and then she's inquisitive, and then she sees I must have moved again, twitched. Her heart is like elated with joy. She picks me up by my shoulders, and when she picks me up as a baby, I go to open my eyes, and it's like a helmet of lead just collapses over my extended awareness. And I believe that that's the veil that we all have when we incarnate on earth. And that's why we can't remember all these gifts, because I witnessed having it the few moments, understanding everyone, having telepathic capability and 360-degree understanding. And then I'm witnessing, when I open my eyes, this helmet just coming and just disconnecting. Now, I remember all of this. I'm 8 years old. I'm down in the basement. I go, wow, no wonder I was having trouble trying to touch that red laundry basket, right? So I put the rest of the white diapers in. I trudge upstairs. My mother, this is like 1965. She's got a little apron. She's doing her dishes with her little bouffant, 1960s hair, the eyeliner. And I go, Mama, did I die in this red laundry basket? And she stops and looks at me. She's in shock. And she goes, how do you remember that? I go, I just remembered. I go, did you call me from heaven? I thought my mother was going to be mad at me because her face goes white. And she motions for me to sit down. And she said, yes. How do you know that? And so she's literally in shock. She cannot remember or cannot figure out how I remember all this. And I said, what happened, Mama? How come I was up in heaven? Why is this red laundry basket? Why was I packed in ice? Now, this is the story she tells me, and she validates this. Yes, I did die. But what she said was my own babysitter back in 1957, there was a horrid pandemic flu that was killing a lot of the babies and the elderly people. And my own babysitter had been in the hospital and was in the hospital right then. She had to go to work. She was a waitress. She was very young. And she said, I was lethargic, but I didn't have a temperature. So she got the people from across the way to come babysit me. That's them that were, by that telephone, the brown fuzzy box, right? She said no sooner had she got to work, they were frantically calling her, and my temperature had went up to 105, 106. And she literally just throws the checks down, comes running, racing back. And that's when I see her down the corridor. So what she said is, yes, my heart had stopped. Yes, I had no breath. And yes, she did command me to come back from heaven. And she's sobbing because I told her a little bit of what I saw in heaven. So remember, I'm 8. I'm seeing my mother sobbing, and she told me that that's also why she carried that little red laundry basket with her every single place we went, because that's when I came back to her from death. And it was a living memory for her. So that's my story. You have to recognize it was validated. There were 3 people there that I, was present and died. But what's interesting is I turned around as an 8-year-old, was inquisitive. Well, Mama, why did those people call you Stormy? Because that's not your name. She's embarrassed and she goes, well, that was my nickname. And I, don't understand. Well, why was that your nickname? And she said, well, I was like sowing chaos like a storm cloud. And she had never told me that before because that was embarrassing. So I'm bringing back information and nickname. I'm bringing back the fact that I did die, that 2 people were there. I recall the entire incident and had information to come back, and it was validated. What I think is important here is that our own consciousness on the other side can become omnipotent and omnipresent. So we can have various pathways in heaven that we can take. And I'd like to open that up to people so that they know that there's many myriad different ways that we can experience heaven on the other side.
Well, that is a remarkable story. Even better from the last time I heard it, more detail and passion and unbelievable. It's so emotional. When I tell people about this story and I say, oh, she had an NDE when she was 6 months old, the first thing they say is, well, how could she remember? Well, she remembered when she was 8. Well, but when she was 8, did she make it up or whatever? So I think what's amazing is that you had that full reliving of the experience at 8 years old when you went over the basket. And then with your mom right then, when it was fresh after your experience, you validated all those things, including Stormy. Like, how would you have ever known there was Stormy? How could you known that she called you back from heaven? I'm sure that wasn't repeated ever in your lifetime. When you did share this with your mom and the validation helped you validate that it was real, did it validate that it was real to her? And how did she respond? Did she think it was sort of a miracle, or did she not believe too much of it? What was that reaction?
No, she absolutely believed. And, you know, my mother, maybe it runs in family lines, but, you know, she was open spiritually and psychic, and I was. So we had that kind of connection. And she knew there were, for me to feel her in heaven and for me to know that she called me back, that's when she was crying because I validated what she thought. And then she was emotional because she knew that I had came back to life, and that's why she's dragging that red laundry basket around. And when they say it's like having amnesia, and I believe that, but like if a person has amnesia, Brad, what do? If you get a head injury and you can't remember, what do? They take you back to your home. They show you your bedroom, your dolls or whatever, your car that you had, to try to invoke that memory. And that's what happened. I probably never would have remembered this had she not been carrying that red laundry basket. And it was a visceral response that I had even as a child. I didn't know why or what had happened, but I knew that it gave me this very eerie feeling every time I got near it. So that's what cracked open the memory. And that's what was able to bring forth that entire experience. And, you know, there was other gifts that come with that, because I do believe that when you have an NDE and you go to the other side and come back, it kind of opens other pathways up for you, and you might have a little help to open some of these dimensions.
Well, I liked what you said in there too, which was not only did this validate for you, but for your mom. She didn't know when she actually yelled for you and said, "Robin, you get down here now." She didn't know if it really worked or not. You did come back, but she didn't know there was a connection. But then you confirmed when you said, "Did you yell at me when I was in heaven to get back down here?" So that confirmed she reached you as well as you came back. So I think this, it does bring on the how did things change in your life after this and what gifts did you have? But just before you go into that, I liked also what you said about when you went back into the body, you still had massive universal awareness until you opened your eyes. And then the veil, which was a helmet of lead, was placed upon you, and you're back in the form that the rest of us are in.
And I think that describes the veil that all the world religions will talk about, the veil of forgetfulness, the kiss of forgetfulness, whatever tradition that you come from. So that's what I thought was interesting, because it also begs the question, how can we recreate these gifts on earth to create that beautiful paradise feeling here when we're all truly interconnected and have all of our telepathic gifts online with each other?
Well, those are the very questions that our audience asks. And that's why they're here today, to get those answers for sure. So I think we can lead into that as far as what your experience was and how you help people out. So what did change then after, you're 8, you and your mom have this conversation, and I would imagine life is never the same. There would have been some incremental changes over those years. And then, like you said, also because you did peak on the other side with the NDE, all of a sudden the veil starts to crack a little bit for you, and you might even have additional abilities.
I think some of those abilities were already online, Brad, because I even remember as a baby watching people's energy. I didn't have the word to tell you it was an aura, but I could see energy radiate off things. So just the experience probably creates maybe you're maybe a little bit more sensitized. And then the other part of this, so I think it opens us up physically, mentally, emotionally, even maybe biochemically when you leave and come back. So I would have already had some of these experiences. When I was 5, the entire room lit up when I was praying to Jesus, because now I have a programming of the world religions and of Christ. And he literally, I thought about this, and I think some of those gifts, if you have that awakening and you come back in, I think it allows the pathways to be sensitized for us to be able to utilize them. And so I was praying as a little girl by my bedside, literally, I love you, Jesus. I would never have let those bad people hurt you. And then all of a sudden, I can feel his energy notice me, just like I felt that woman notice me. Do you see, when I had twitched when I was in my baby body, I could feel Christ notice me, and he coalesces. His energy is spread throughout all the universe, and he coalesces in front of me in a pillar of light that was so brilliant that I couldn't see it, but then he coalesces behind me. But I'm 5. But subsequently, you see, throughout the rest of my life, you have feelings. I feel when people are sick. I had Christ come to me one time when I was drowning in the ocean, and he showed me how to get out of a riptide. I was from Michigan. I knew what lakes were and pools. I had no idea what an ocean riptide was, and was out there in the ocean drowning after 45 minutes. And anyone who's been involved in a riptide will know how exhausted you are, and I couldn't take one more breath. I was running out of strength. And that's when I call, just like my mother called to me, I called to Jesus, help me, show me, save me. And he literally puts this image in my mind to go under, which didn't have any sense to me, to go under the water at a diagonal. And I said, I'm listening. And I did it. And I was able to just get my feet on the sand when the next wave came through. So I was able to walk to shore. But you feel, people, you can feel their energy. I was always called to be in a spiritual healing profession, and to always utilize those gifts, whether it's to help your friends, help at work. It didn't matter. When you can feel someone, you have that ability to merge with them. That's the gifts that I use in any profession that I would have had, with any person that I come into contact with, that you can feel that beautiful openness, and then to be able to go into the other dimensions, and they'll say, how do you know? Well, you feel it.
And how did that transition from 8 years old throughout your life? Was it you went back to being a kid for the most part, and then it really hit you later? Or were you a different kind of child, even at 9, 10, and 11 because of this?
It was true. It was normal. And I had a family that allowed me to utilize some of my gifts, that my mother even knew that I had those gifts. So she relied on me for them. Like, we were going over a bridge, and that's the Silver Bridge in Ohio, and it collapsed. My mother had the gifts, as I told you, but then she knew that mine were even greater. So then she says, what are you feeling? And I said, you got to go now. And that was a Silver Bridge collapse in Ohio. And I think it might have been in the late 1960s, right at Christmas time. We were going over it. And sure enough, it collapses, and there's not one car behind us. And so I have with my family, they allowed me to utilize my gifts. Do you see that? And that, like, if my uncle, I saw a dark cloud over him, I would say, Big Daddy, there's something wrong. He'd say, yeah, honey, I went to the hospital. I said, please go, there's something wrong with your brain. And sure enough, he had brain cancer. So I had a family that allowed me to utilize some of these gifts, and maybe I used more of them. And I think what was confusing for me, Brad, is that I knew, because I can feel people, sometimes they would have no comprehension, that I wouldn't be able to explain this to them. So then you can just have to be silent. And that's why I'm ever so grateful for Raymond Moody and Eben Alexander and Dr. Mary Neal, all the great ones, they broke this open, the mold, so that people could talk about their NDEs, because most people couldn't comprehend it. So many of us held it inside. I went into the helping healing professions to utilize my gifts, but I'm utilizing them to help others, but they're also helping me in moments of crisis. Then, when you ask and when you have those intuitions, so you're utilizing those gifts. I'm not afraid of them. So I'm utilizing them more. And I think that's the takeaway here, is that I had a beautiful experience. I wasn't afraid of death. I wasn't afraid of the Creator. It was magnificent and beautiful. So I had no fear of utilizing all these gifts in these pathways. You said, how has this experience shaped you? But it's allowed me to more easily go to the other side and see all these things, right? So I was only about 19, and my consciousness lifted up into space again. And I saw the planet Earth, and I could literally feel all the souls. I could see all the lights. Some were brighter, some were lesser than, and some of them were crying and some of them were joyful. And it all became the song of Earth. And then when I looked up, you're the light. I'm a light. And I reach out and extend out into space. And finally, way, way out, you can feel the lights of consciousness, and they have a frequency, their own little frequency, like beating. You see that? And then you extend even further out, and you can feel the other frequency. You extend out to the farthest reaches, and that was this beautiful, because you're a musician, each one had its own little frequency of awareness, and that was a whole orchestra that played throughout all creation. We are the unique frequencies, and extend that out through all creation.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
all the awarenesses, they're just pulsing. We're the music, Brad.
Yes.
Isn't that beautiful?
And I think that's the beauty of getting that experience so young, before the world has taught you to be afraid of various things and to fear death. Well, before that, you have a completely different outlook. And obviously that changed the trajectory of your entire life, I would suspect. So I have this next section here called Heart's First Whisper, where I have some questions all set up for you. And the idea is to get to know you just a little bit better. And in the process, I'll ask you a question and you use your heart to answer. No thoughts or mind is involved. What do you think of that?
Oh, I love it. Okay.
Excellent. All right, here we go. First question, very simple one. What is one word for the nature of reality?
True awareness is you're open, you extend your consciousness, and you can become part of it all. So you are aware, that is your reality. You can go into any reality you so choose.
Beautiful. Nice. Well, this brings us into question number 2, which is, what surprised you most on the other side?
God is more than you can comprehend, because her prime creator's awareness goes on for eternity. So that awareness is infused with love, and it's a heart breath. It's a heartbeat. It's a breath that's coming to fuel it all. And so that awareness is infused on all levels. And it was in that moment of awareness when I could feel the in-breath or the heartbeat of God, and then extend it to fuel all creation, infused with loving, unconditional love. And I think that's what surprised me most, because it's infinite and it goes for eternity.
And does it feel like when you finally remove your helmet of lead that you'll be right back there?
Yes. I promise you that if I die, I know exactly the pathway that I'll take. And that's that awareness. That's where I come up and I can witness all of the glories again and be a part of it all. And my own consciousness can extend. So we can be a part of everything and all of it at once.
Very nice. Looking forward to that. And that leads us into our next question, number 3, which is, while we're still here in this physical form, what's one fear that fell away after your NDE?
See, because I was so young, Brad, I don't think I had a fear. I think that's what the beauty of it was. When a 6-month-old dies, I wasn't taught about death. I wasn't taught about religion. I wasn't taught about anything. So I don't think I had a fear. And maybe that's why my experience was a little bit more profound, because there was no fears for me to have. So I embraced it all.
So that's really interesting, because you were so young and you didn't have those fears. It feels like the scientists that do their testing say that babies inherently have a fear of falling, and a fear of one or two other things. I think it's just only a couple of basics. But it feels like if that's the case, then all the rest of the fears that, young kids, teenagers, adults have must be conditioned in them over the course of their life.
I think that's an excellent point, because think of all the religions and how they will tell you have hell, you've got to do this. It's based on fear. Well, I wasn't pre-programmed. I wasn't educated and conditioned yet. So when those beautiful light rays and light beams filled with champagne bubbles of love, of course I'm going to where you're taking me. There was no hint of fear. So I'm embracing the full experience, I think, which then allows me not to have to create or go or be attracted to all these other things that people fear. I was embracing the experience of absolute love and joy and expansion. There was no fear.
That is a great observation. And now I would ask, since now later in your life, as in now, and probably for many years, you're involved in the church as a reverend and meeting folks all the time. Are you running into any issues where there's disagreements on your perception?
Well, the one good thing that the church, and it's the center, the cosmic center of spiritual light, but it is through a church, the metaphysical church of Christianity, the people that tend to come there, we have, let's say, an open door policy with all religions. And that's one of the reasons why I have taught on all the world religions, whether it's the Bhagavad Gita, the Hinduism, or I'll teach on Buddhism, or I'll teach from the Bible, the Gnostic Gospels, the suppressed Gospels of the Bible, to open the doorway, because I think at a highest level, all the religions are speaking of the same thing. The problem is that religions can box people's awareness into and put them in little boxes and maybe suppress some of the highest teachings. And so, that's why I feel comfortable associating and being a reverend with the Cosmic Church of Spiritual Light, because we have that open door policy.
And does that allow you to communicate and collaborate with those that come to that space in a no fear environment?
Yes. We embrace all world religions. You'll see, that kind of philosophy there. And so that's where it's, I believe that's where we're moving more and more and more, where as people become more awakened and aware, and hopefully near-death experiences are opening the doorway and the pathways, and people are embracing this new paradigm of openness. And that's where I hope the shift is going to be coming, where we can all have those beautiful gifts awaken in us and to literally make paradise on earth. All of our telepathic capabilities, the love, when all of your centers are open with unconditional love, then you don't want to hurt. You don't want to control people with fear, where love is supportive and embracing and inclusive.
Oh, yes, of course. Like a sign over the door, or maybe a bumper sticker that says, "No fear here, only unconditional love."
Yes, yes. And I think love is the true answer.
Yes, it is, for sure. If it came down to one word, for sure. Well, hey, that does bring us to question number 4, which is, what is one practice you would recommend for touching the light while here?
It's very hard, especially for Westerners, to quiet the mind. And I think if we can spend time learning how to meditate and quieting the intellectual mind. That, when you can do that, then you're in that hypnagogic state to where you're allowing the inspiration to come in from the divine source, and to allow your own awareness to be open, to be that container that's open to allow the light to come in. So you have to kind of clear the space, create the opening for the divine light of God, or the awareness of enlightenment, to come in to you. And then you have to be open to receive it and not live in fear, but live in love.
You know, in a world that is just has more distractions than it's ever had, it's kind of tough in some cases to get into the position to do what you said, to receive and to listen, and potentially to kind of find yourself in a dark corner somewhere, shut off the world, go inside, meditate, focus in, listen for what comes. You know, any guidance there on how to do that in such a crazy world?
Spending time with yourself, shutting off all media, and maybe creating like a beautiful corner where it's in your room or your office, where you go and you make an appointment, because I know how busy everyone is. I work many hours a week, work way too many, but you make an appointment for yourself. That's a gift to you. And you create this beautiful little corner where you go and you imprint it with yourself, with the holiness that's within you, within ever how you conceive God or your avatars of light to be. And you spend time communing. Nature also is beautiful. And a lot of us can just kind of drop into that beautiful, calm state automatically. But if you struggle, a lot of times what you want to do, and you would know this, Brad, as a drummer, but the drumming or bilateral, I have a sound bed that I use that has it's like got the lights and it goes back and forth. Or you even have people who have like a lot of ADHD and can't sit still. Then you can do the drums, the drumming circles. You can actually do those labyrinths where you're just moving. But think of the whirling dervishes, right? So if you have that kind of kinetic energy, you can be doing something while you're dropping into that state. Or you can literally just stare at a beautiful flame, a beautiful candle, and you just merge with the flame.
Wow, those are all great ideas. Definitely nature, the notion of the flame, focusing on your breath as you just quiet the mind and go inside. And that extra one in there was wonderful. I think I'm going to have to figure out a way to tune my drums to 528 hertz, multiples and derivatives of that, and see if something magic comes from that too. I'll let you know how that comes out. Thanks for that recommendation. Well, that brings us to number 5, really, which is an interesting one, which is, what sentence would you tell your younger self?
Keep the state of innocence, but use your awareness, because even Christ, and I've thought of this over and over again, be ye wise as a serpent, but as pure as a dove. And so even though we're going to walk maybe the treacherous ways of this world, but you keep your heart and your soul, your spirit, your mind, and your awareness pure. So you keep that connection pure and you emanate it fully and completely for all the days of your life.
Very nice advice. Now, let me ask, because you did have this experience early and then you had these gifts and a remembering of this, how close would you say your life unfolded similar to the advice you just gave?
I think that I kept that pure connection and I kept a lot of my pureness, but the world wasn't as pure as I saw on the other side. So I had to learn the ways of the world and then perhaps be a little bit more guarded.
Oh, yes, that's for sure. There is
Mm-hmm.
the soul, and then there is the role, that we
Mm-hmm.
have on this side and that everyone else has on this side as well. That's why, I've kind of heard many times and try to remember, you can love everyone unconditionally as you sort of reflect on the soul of them. And yet you don't have to like everyone. If you think about the role that they have here, they could intentionally have taken on the role of a villain. And if that's the case, well, they might be executing that role brilliantly. You don't have to like the role, but it's good to know that you have unconditional love for all souls. That sort of fits. And that one brings us to the final question, which is number 6, which is, what do you most want listeners to remember after this episode?
Number 1, never fear death. It's beautiful what's on the other side, but you have this capacity. You may not see a white light. You may become the white light. You may have many paths that you can journey on the other side. There's many souls and many expressions of the souls, but there's also many expressions of heaven. And so embrace the beauty, and whatever unfolds, it will be beautiful for you, but to be open to the fact that you could be omnipotent, you could be omnipresent. And that extension, you never lose you, but you can become part of it all.
Wow. Well, that was very inspirational. And I would hope people would rewind and play it again and write that all down. Another recommendation we've had, over many of these different podcasts is to journal, journal each day, write down your thoughts and even go back to them. It's kind of like a time capsule. Go back and listen or read through and re-experience things and see how much you've come along over the years. So definitely write that advice down. I think that is amazing. And yet, if the time goes by after they've seen this video where they really want to reach out to you and get some refreshed, updates and information from you, how can folks connect with you?
I have a couple of websites. One is www.crystalkeycounseling.org, and that's crystal with a C, and counseling like a mental health counselor, Crystal Key Counseling, COUNSELING.org. And the other one is www.nouveauhealing.com. And of course, they can also join the Cosmic Center of Spiritual Light's Zoom links and be able to reach me that way. And an email probably would be good, crystalkeycounseling@gmail.com. And you can reach me directly there at crystalkeycounseling@gmail.com.
Excellent. And guess what? Everything you just said, all those links in that email address are in the description right below. So don't worry about a thing. You can go into the description, click those links and follow and go reconnect with Robin, send her an email, check in with her. And the Zoom links especially, you can check in weekly and see all the greatest and latest activity. So Robin, thank you for bringing us into the vastness and for showing how it translates into everyday compassion. Your story reminds us that the soul isn't erased by the light, it's embraced and enlarged by it, and that love and human and divine really does move the world. For everyone listening, if a child or the child in you shares something extraordinary, try curiosity over correction. And if you're longing for contact, remember Robin's road home: quiet, open, intend, and listen. And all those links we talked about will be down below. You're going to love all this content. Stay in touch with Robin for sure. Thank you, Robin.
Thank you so much, Brad.
Well, if Robin's insights moved you, please like, subscribe, and share, and leave a note. I love those comments down below. I get in there and respond to every one of them. If the episode spoke to your heart, pass it along to someone who can use a little light today. And until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, and go beyond the illusion to discover your true self. Now, take care, everyone. Now, typically I would say bye for now, but I am definitely not going to say that today, because what you're going to see next is Robin, and she is going to share some amazing music. And the music is coming from the Lambdoma instrument that she has that's at 528 Hz. So Robin, if you want to take just a moment and describe what they're just about to watch and hear, that would be great.
So I'm going to key it into the frequency of 528, which is one of the Hertz frequencies, the solfeggio frequencies, that does help heal the DNA. And so every single note that I will be playing on this Lambdoma will be a fractal frequency of the 528, so that literally you will be hearing ratios of music in the frequency of 528.
Beautiful, and that is healing for sure. 528 or multiples thereof or derivatives down below. Sit back, do enjoy. Thank you.